Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and today we are going to be reacting to the BAFTA winners. They happened about a day ago this time.
Really, the goal with talking BAFTAs right now, hopefully this is going to shape our understanding of the Oscar race a little bit more. And with Best Film, yeah, Oppenheimer wins. And is that a surprise? It's not a surprise. Of course Oppenheimer won. Of course it took Best Picture. Of course it took Best Director. We knew that. Does it change anything in the Oscar race? No, because we knew that was happening. It's still winning Best Picture at the Oscars. It's still winning Best Director. No surprise at all.
There's always going back to that side, like, oh, BAFTA sucks at predicting the Best Picture Oscar winner. But if we go back to previous years, there's usually like a race at this time. Even if it's not a big race, there's still at least two films in the conversation. And this year, what is number two? Some people thought, oh, maybe it's Poor Things, maybe it's Anatomy. There is no clear number two. Last year, All Quiet presented itself here. 1917, the year of Parasite. Power of the Dog, the year of Coda. And it goes on and on and on. Like the only recent winners that won at BAFTA, won at Oscar, were the clear number ones where there was no number two, like Nomadland.
I will say the main comparison I could make to if Oppenheimer was overtaken at this point would be The Power of the Dog in 2021, because what happened at BAFTA with The Power of the Dog was there was no number two. Everyone was like, oh, it's just Power of the Dog. At that point in the Oscar race in general, we'd all just kind of accepted, yeah, it's just gonna be Power of the Dog the whole way. It's too big to fail. And at the BAFTAs, what happened is it won every award except one key category. It lost adapted screenplay to a movie that was not nominated for Best Picture at the BAFTAs. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying if we're looking at a past comparison of what could happen from now, you know, that's the only thing I would bring up. Otherwise, we thought that maybe there could be a massive show of strength here for Anatomy of the Fall. We did not see that. In fact, it lost one very key category. Same with Poor Things. Even though Poor Things won 5 awards, which we'll talk about a little bit later, it lost one key category to a movie that did not make sense to lose to. To me, Oppenheimer is still locked, but I want to see SAG. If SAG does something absolutely insane, I'm going to really question if Oppenheimer is locked for a win. But until that happens, I am very comfortable saying Oppenheimer is winning Best Picture hands down, and BAFTA did nothing to change my mind with that.
Director, that's locked up. Nolan wins here. He won DGA. He won Golden Globe. He's won everywhere they give out a Best Director prize. He wins here as well, and he's going to go on to the Oscars. It should have been obvious. Like, looking back on it, that Oppenheimer was going to be as, maybe not as big, but like more of a player than we were giving it credit for all the way back when, because like it's a biopic about a well-known figure around the world from a very respected director. I think I had him in director, but I didn't have him winning when we first started off. But like the signs were there, and I think it will be really interesting going forward is like, how do we go about our early predictions? Because like 2 years ago, I was all in. Big populist movie, it needs to win. It doesn't win. And if I would have stuck with that this year, could have looked really smart with Oppenheimer back in like March.
I'll say what I've learned from Oppenheimer's sweep, because I was pretty infamously a major Oppenheimer denialist for a very long time, up to the point when it premiered. I had it missing Best Picture. And once it premiered, I was like, okay, it's undeniable, it's in. But up until that point, I had it like floating at number 11. What that was for me was a very reactionary thing, looking at the past couple of years where we've had so many major films from big directors that had huge awards prospects that didn't perform well. My brain was a little bit rotted from the Alejandro González Iñárritu underperformance with Bardo, the Florian Zeller underperformance with The Sun, and the Sam Mendes underperformance with Empire of Light. I was kind of trying to predict what are the films this year that look like perfect contenders from directors that should be big contenders. Nothing was saying Oppenheimer was not going to be a big success. And so a big lesson I'm learning is don't try and predict things to be huge flops when you really have no reason to and you want them to succeed. Because like, I've been a big Christopher Nolan fan forever, and I don't know why I was like, oh, this is the one that's going to be a huge failure for him. That makes no sense. The other thing I was trying to do is, I've had this theory of first-time Best Picture nominees, the underdog has to win, and Oppenheimer looked like anything but an underdog. And something that I've learned, I have to be very unbiased in acknowledging when something can break that stat. And what happened with Oppenheimer is, I said very early on, after Oppenheimer premiered, the only way this could win Best Picture if it's pretty much unanimously seen as the best thing Christopher Nolan's ever done. I didn't feel that way about it. Everyone else did. And yet I kind of stuck my head in the sand and went, la, 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 la. No one thinks that. It's not true. That is the consensus. The consensus is this is Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. And so a lesson learned for me is to listen to other people a lot more. And if I set parameters of this is what needs to happen for a movie to win Best Picture, then accept it when it does happen. Like, for example, I'll say right now, Dune Part 2 is not winning Best Picture unless it makes over $1 billion in the box office. Only then will I view it as a win contender. So that's all I'll say at this point. I'm just adjusting how I predict based on Oppenheimer. And, of course, Christopher Nolan, he's sweeping the season. You know who else is sweeping the season? Robert Downey Jr., because he took a big win here for Oppenheimer. Of course he did. Of course. This just makes sense. He's taking the whole season.
Again, going back to our early predictions, I know he wasn't really much in the marketing, but Downey Jr., he has this perfect narrative where even if he wasn't in the Best Picture frontrunner, I think he probably still would be sweeping the season. It's just like so perfect on paper, and I'm really happy. I really like this performance, and I really like our supporting category at the Oscars. I think all 5 of those men, if they won, I would be happy with them. There's not many years I can say that in a category. So Downey sweep will continue. I think at SAG he has in the bag. Regardless, if something else wins ensemble, I think Downey is still taking supporting actor. But at SAG, we could have a little bit of a battle because Cillian Murphy now has BAFTA to go along with his Golden Globe drama win.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy is definitely the front runner, which we've been saying all along. He's the front runner. He's going to take this. While Robert Downey Jr.'s category is not a race at all, he's just sweeping, we absolutely do have a race in Best Actor because it's between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. Bradley Cooper's done. BAFTA was his last chance. Out. Gone. But at SAG, we could see Paul Giamatti win. I'm still thinking Cillian Murphy wins. Do you still feel like it's kind of a toss-up? Like right now, I'm 60-40 Cillian Murphy to Paul Giamatti.
I mean, I've never really thought it was a toss-up. I've had Murphy out in front since Oppenheimer came out, and I don't even remember who I had before then because I didn't have Cooper, but I don't know. I just don't think this is a race, and I think this is just a thing due to the Oscars being so late into the season. Yeah. People are bored. They're just trying to come up with another contender because I get Giamatti won the Globe. That doesn't matter. His competition in that category was weak. He won CCA. CCA voted like right after the Globe when he had the funny meme of going to In-N-Out. Like, I'm not saying that's why he won.
Yeah, no, it's not why he won.
But you can put some pieces together. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's actually a race at all. And I think when we get to SAG, we see that full force with Cillian Murphy winning there. And last year, I mean, we went 0 for 4 with BAFTA SAG parallels. I don't think we're getting that this year, but I also don't think we're going 4 for 4 at SAG.
I would say kind of do. I have 4 for 4.
I currently do as well, but I will say if one category goes astray, it's not lead actress. I think it would be lead actor.
I do agree. If one category goes astray, I would say it's Paul Giamatti, and I don't know. We'll have to talk about that when we get to actress, because I could see both of the lead categories going to whoever wins the SAG award. I'd actually say 75% Cillian Murphy, 25% Paul Giamatti. That's where I'm feeling right now, not 60-40.
I'll one-up you. I'll go 80, 18, and 2. That 2 for Bradley. He can still win SAG.
No, Bradley Cooper, he's dead. BAFTA's the last chance. He's done. He's out. He's gone. Bye-bye. But Paul Giamatti, his last chance is SAG. Yeah, after SAG, that's, you can tuck them in and say, sorry, Paul Giamatti, maybe next time, bud.
We talked about before the BAFTAs during our predictions that Oppenheimer had a chance to beat the record. The record was 9.
Yes.
Pretty early on, we realized that wasn't happening. It lost some pretty key categories, but it did win 3 techs in addition to its above-the-line wins. And I think they were all pretty obvious ones. Even if we didn't predict one of these, it won editing, it won score, and it won cinematography, even though we both had Poor Things. So I guess
trying to be clever.
My question to you, does this lock up all 3 of these races for the Oscars?
Absolutely
or
locks up
any
all
of
3
them
of these.
still open? I feel the same.
They've been locked. They are locked. We were looking for Poor Things in cinematography as a potential way to unlock that race that has been seen as locked for a very long time. And there was the BSC, the British Society of Cinematographers. They went with Poor Things in cinematography, and we were like, is that a clue? Could that be something? And it's not something. Oppenheimer's just winning it. Oppenheimer's winning editing. That's no surprise at all. We've known that for ages. Original score, Oppenheimer's winning. No surprise at all. When we were talking about can Oppenheimer beat the record, we tallied that up really quick, and we were like, okay, there's no way it beats the record. It's possible that it ties, but it didn't even scratch the tie. It got 7, which is it's still a great amount of awards. But
Didn't All Quiet get 7?
I think All Quiet got 7.
Or maybe at 6.
I don't know. But with Poor Things getting 5, which we'll talk about that soon. But Oppenheimer winning 7, Poor Things winning 5 is it's not exactly what I would have expected. It's much closer than I would have thought, because there was so much talk about oh my God, is Oppenheimer going to break this record?
When we did our predictions, we did say 7. We just had one of the wrong awards because we won't go into the one that it lost that we predicted it to win, but one that some other people who were saying Oppenheimer would break the record, because if you keep in mind, you go to our poll on our channel, you out there, you watching, you predicted that Oppenheimer would break the record.
Yeah,
that
it was
poll
was
60%. And people who were predicting it would have had it winning adapted screenplay, where it wasn't Oppenheimer, it wasn't Poor Things, it wasn't the film that BAFTA loved, giving it 3 surprise wins. It was American Fiction.
Bro.
Wow. Wow, I love it.
Well, when we were talking about this in our predictions video, my entire process on this was, American Fiction's in the category, and it's not going to win here because it's BAFTA, and BAFTA doesn't go for the heavily American films. This movie has American in its title. They gave this movie 1 nomination, and it was a surprise that they gave it this nomination. People weren't predicting it to get nominated because it's too American.
So it's in the title.
It's in the title. This is not the type of movie that BAFTA goes for. For it to win Best Adapted Screenplay over Poor Things, which won 5 awards, over Oppenheimer, which won 7 awards, over The Zone of Interest, which, again, we'll talk about that soon, won 3 awards. Holy shit. American Fiction, I gotta take my dub here. Oh my God, how long have I been saying American Fiction adapted screenplay? Very long time.
Since you saw it at TIFF.
Very long time. I will just say, if American Fiction can not just take down the front runner, but take down the presumed runner-up, Poor Things, in that category, is it that far back in Best Picture? This is not a Women Talking situation where Women Talking won adapted screenplay, but it wasn't a Best Picture win contender because it was in a category where, it was up against All Quiet and Top Gun, but those weren't writing movies. Mm-hmm. American Fiction was up against Oppenheimer and Poor Things. Those are writing movies. And if it can beat those movies in that major category, is it all that far back for Best Picture? I might venture it might be number 2.
I would say it is number 2 with the caveat that
there's no real number 2. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a cooler way to say that, but that's the direct way. There is no real number 2 this year. It's the Nomadland year where 2 is I don't even know what you would say 2 is that year. But yeah, I think American Fiction, if it is really going to submit itself as number 2, as a possible upset number 2,
SAG.
not just number 2, but is SAG. Do I think it's winning? No. But I've had it at number 2 since I think Oscar nominations. Yeah. I think I moved it up over Barbie then because of its strong showing. And I haven't been with you that American Fiction is a possible picture winner since you've said it, but I've entertained the thought of it, and I've been more receptive.
Do you see the angle? because I've been saying
it's
this.
the same angle as before. It's the screenplay.
I'm going to be fully honest with you. I think with a different distributor, you give American Fiction to Apple, you give American Fiction to Focus Features, you give it the campaign that the Holdovers has had. American Fiction would be a very strong contender to pull a coda right now. But Amazon MGM is just absolutely fucking up. There are still places that you can't see American Fiction. They're not sending the cast out to do things. In a different world where American Fiction had been acquired by, I don't know, Warner Brothers or just any other major studio that's not Amazon MGM, we would see Sterling K. Brown be a strong upset contender. We would see a potential for Jeffrey Wright being in that Paul Giamatti slot of like, oh, he's such a beloved actor that like we want to award. But the fact of the matter is, Amazon MGM has given American Fiction a dog shit campaign. It has succeeded despite that. And I really think this movie would have been a win contender with anyone else behind the wheel.
Well, you talk about possible upsets, and people have been saying all along, like, oh, what if Sandra Hüller's a possible upset? Anatomy kind of underperformed. We talked about Anatomy going into BAFTA. It's like, is this number 2? BAFTA shows us, no, it's not, but it's still one screenplay. Anatomy lost a lot, so I think this just shows Anatomy is strong in screenplay. It's above Holdovers. I mean, you can say, I told you so of American Fiction. I could say, I told you so of Anatomy of a Fall, because I've been saying for a while, it's number 2 when Barbie was in the category. But yes, so regardless, Anatomy is now, I think you have to definitively say, number 1 for the Oscar. I know the Holdovers truthers out there don't want to hear me speak, but that is the truth.
They hated Jesus because he told them the truth. That's all I'm going to say, man.
Boom.
The Holdovers, I don't see an angle for it to win Best Original Screenplay now, because what is it going to win? What screenplay prize is it going to win from now to the Oscars? It's not going to win anything. It would win WGA, yes, but you can't woulda, shoulda.
Barbie's original at WGA.
Oh, you're right. It wouldn't win WGA. That's so that argument gone. You can't make an argument for the Holdovers in screenplay anymore. It's just Anatomy of a Fall. Before this ceremony, I would have said Anatomy of a Fall might be our number 2 in Best Picture because it's winning original screenplay. But yeah, as I talked about, it's American Fiction. Also because, I mean, you just mentioned it. Anatomy of a Fall lost in some major categories here. Before the ceremony, we were like, ooh, could Anatomy of a Fall like upset in some big categories like Best Actress, like Best Film? But no. Anatomy of a Fall was upset in the Best International Feature category. What was that? That's crazy. They went for the Zone of Interest, which isn't in Best Film.
You talk about if American Fiction had a better distributor, how it could be doing right now. A24 has shown 2 years in a row. They know how to time stuff perfectly because Zone of Interest is peaking at the right time. This BAFTA reception shows that. I think if this buzz, maybe you can say it's detrimental because maybe it wouldn't be as strong during voting period for wins. But if this buzz was like this a month ago, Zone of Interest could have had like 7, could have had like 8 Oscar nominations. That would have been crazy to say, and people are like, oh my gosh, is Zone of Interest number 2? And I know people are clowning that.
That's what Variety is saying, though.
Yeah, when people on Reddit were like, oh, is Zone of Interest this year's coda? People are like, no way, but I mean, there's passion for this movie.
There is
I'm not
passion.
saying it's that.
It'd be wild.
But there is passion for this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if it upsets in sound.
Yes. Before we move to sound, though, I want to say one more thing, which is in our past 2 revisiting Best Picture videos, we've been talking about the question of if Anatomy of a Fall was in Best International Feature, what would win? Both Lucas, both Arno have said, oh, no question, Anatomy would win. Would it? After seeing this, would it? Because I think what I'm realizing now is that everyone likes Anatomy of a Fall, but the people that love Zone of Interest love Zone of Interest. I think it would be more of a race than we thought it would. Best Sound, Zone of Interest won over Oppenheimer, which we were entertaining the idea of. We were going, oh, it's probably Oppenheimer, but what if they do something cool here? And they did something cool. Now, the question I have to ask you is there a shot in hell that this happens again at the Oscars?
I think it depends on what happens at SAG. I think if Oppenheimer wins Ensemble, it shows that it's the steam runner. It's going to win PGA. That Oppenheimer will pull in Everything Everywhere and just win whatever it can. But let's say if American Fiction wins Ensemble, or crazy enough Barbie wins PGA or something like that,
Yeah.
Oppenheimer shows weakness. This is a category where the weakness would fizzle a little bit. We said cinematography. It looks like sound could be that. And I know there's always like, oh, sound and editing have to go together. Except when they don't. When there's a film that's just so
rare.
phenomenal in one of those categories, and Zone would be that, and it's a way for people to award it. I'm not predicting it.
No, that's
but
a
I'm
good
saying,
argument, though. That is
I'm
a
just
really
saying
good...
that if it sways, this is where, again, BAFTA's not always the best precursor.
It's not.
BAFTA
It's
really
not.
loved Zone. They also loved Oppenheimer. So it's just something to look at. Zone, I don't think, was eligible at the guilds, or maybe just didn't show up at the guilds.
Yeah.
But so it's really just, what are you valuing more? BAFTA and timing, or the guild and what's going to be the best picture frontrunner? I think I'm going to lean more towards frontrunner Oppenheimer, but if Oppenheimer shows it's a little weaker in these coming few weeks, this is where I think the signs would crumble more so than a supporting actor or picture sort of thing.
For me, it's just the sound and editing stat. That sound and editing stat is so ironclad that it took a sweeper like Everything Ever All at Once to break that stat. I don't see that stat breaking against a film as big as Oppenheimer. The thing that you mentioned that gives me pause is that with Zone of Interest, it is so evident what the sound is doing. And maybe that flashiness justifies a win.
When we have those correlations, it's usually just because, for the most part, sound-heavy movies have very fast-paced editing. Or the reverse. Very fast-paced edited movies usually have loud sounds. But when we have years where one is not strong as the other, and there is a palpable, a very prominent other option, like Everything Everywhere versus Top Gun Maverick, like Oppenheimer's Zone of Interest, we could see a split.
I'm definitely considering it more than I was before. I was beforehand saying it's a pipe dream that Zone of Interest could win. I'm still not going to put my chips on it, but I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised, Pikachu. If it were to happen, I'd just be like, oh my God, they did it. Wow.
That's exactly how I felt about Outstanding British Film, because we ran through the numbers, because we said during our prediction episode, Zone's the British film of the year. They submitted it for the Oscar, but we looked at every time there's a film in this category that's in Best Picture, it wins every time. And Poor Things was in Best Picture. Doesn't matter Zone of Interest, it got that win.
This is the fucking crazy thing about Zone of Interest showing at BAFTA. In 2 different categories, Best International Film, Best British Film, it beat films that should have been stronger than it. This is the same as if, like, I don't know, go back to a year when Pixar is nominated for Best Animated Film and Best Picture. It would be like if Fantastic Mr. Fox beat Up, despite Up being in Best Picture. It would be like Society of the Snow beating Zone of Interest in International Feature at the Oscars. It's so nuts that happened, and it shows how strong Zone of Interest is.
Yeah, and I guess what it shows more to me is just timing of things, is because Zone hadn't been seen by many people at BAFTA nomination time. BAFTA
wasn't released
time.
in the UK at the time.
I think this is showing the signs, like, hey, if Zone was saw by maybe like 200 more people that were eligible to vote, it would have been a best film. Zone knocked it out of the park, and the film that we thought was going to knock it out of the park still did pretty well. Poor Things. It won 5 awards. It won an award we weren't expecting. It lost an award that we were expecting. So I guess let's start with the one that we weren't expecting. And this helps us nothing with the Oscars.
No, I think it does.
But I am going to agree with you, because it helps my case. It helps my case that the creator is our winner for visual effects. Because,
I disagree.
Oh,
I strongly disagree that it helps the case, because Poor Things winning Best Visual Effects shows what? It shows, obviously, a passion for Poor Things, but it's not like the BAFTAs were just picking their favorite movie in every category. Otherwise, why did Oppenheimer not win a couple of other awards? They loved Oppenheimer so much they gave it Best Film. Why did it not take sound? Why did it not take adapted screenplay? It doesn't say to me that, like, Poor Things just had an outpouring of passion. It lost Best British Film. What it says to me is none of the other films had enough passion. No one was, like, clamoring to vote for the creator. No one was clamoring to vote for Napoleon. So this doesn't say anything about strength to me. This shows weakness. This shows weakness in the creator. This shows Napoleon, I've been saying that was winning. It's out. It's gone. We know people don't care about the creator from this. We know they don't care about Napoleon. Maybe they care about Godzilla.
Going back, looking at previous visual effects winners. So I'm just looking at times where they differed from the Oscars, which they've been on a pretty good track record as of late. They had 1917. They had Tenet in years where maybe it was more of a battle. They had Jungle Book. So I guess the last time was when they went with Star Wars over Ex Machina. Since 2010, they've only been wrong twice. So Poor Things is number 3, obviously. But yeah, there is no Godzilla here. I don't necessarily agree with your statement of it not being here is both a sign of strength as well as a sign of weakness for the film. I don't fully agree with that because I think, like, using it in another category, Lily Gladstone not being here shows me massive weakness. It shows no strength for her for not winning in her category.
But I think that's different.
For here, for Godzilla, I guess it's different because they're two different categories, but at the same time...
And everyone saw Killers. Killers got other nominations. It's possible that people just didn't watch Godzilla.
I guess so. I'm trying to keep my bias out of it because I love Godzilla -1. It's in my top 15 films of the year. The visual effects aren't good. I know they're made for cheap,
I agree.
But they're not good.
They are not good, and everyone is gaslighting us into thinking that they're much better than they are.
I think what it will come down to is just... do people look at things? Because Creator was still seen by more people than Godzilla was. If you go by box office numbers, Creator grossed more than Godzilla
definitely.
did. So it wouldn't be a visibility thing for if the Creator lost to Godzilla. It would just be a passion thing. But the Godzilla passion for visual effects, I've heard nothing about it recently. It was all during nomination time, where that's where I think it got the nomination. So many people were mentioning, look at this feat. They were campaigning a little bit. There was so much promo. The movie just came out. They re-released the movie. I think that's how it got in. There's been nothing. You can't even watch this movie right now. It's not in theaters. It's not streaming. It's not going to be streaming until like April or May. I just don't know how it wins because there's no other ceremony. If you're going back to the Holdovers and Screenplay, there's no other ceremony for the Oscars doing visual effects except VES. You know what's winning at VES because they actually care about visual effects? Is the Creator.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is I think this is more of a race than you're expecting it to be, just because the Creator losing here, where it should have been a walk in the park to get this.
You had Napoleon to win.
I did have Napoleon to win.
It was favored on Gold Derby.
It was favored on Gold Derby because Matt Neglia did a fucking psyop, being like, he posted it like 10 times on Twitter being like, ooh, are people underestimating Napoleon? And then it went up. You know, that's just what happens. I followed that. So I don't know. The Creator makes so much sense to win. And the fact that it didn't win has to show some lack of passion. That's all I'm saying. The fact that it lost to Poor Things, which is like a questionable nomination in the first place for visual effects, to me, that's a sign of weakness that says there's a gap that can be filled. I don't know if it will, but the Creator doesn't feel like a real winner to me. It really doesn't.
I don't want to make this a visual effects battle video, so we'll move on from visual effects here to go
we'll
to some
more
more
about
Poor
that
Things
later.
victories. Let's do these two at the same time because production design, costume design, Poor Things is looking to be the favorite now at the Oscars. I use the word favorite
but it's not
distinctively.
looking to be the favorite because the favorite lost those categories.
Yes, that is what my transition was going to be. I still think Barbie has a good shot in costumes.
Yes.
I think production design's
wrapped up,
looking very unlikely, which is weird to me, but I get it. Sort of, not really. I would pick Barbie, but still, Poor Things has very good production design. It's won what it's needed to. It won the Guild, it won BAFTA. It's going on to the Oscar. Costume design is what's more up in question right now. So, and then Poor Things obviously won here at BAFTA, but BAFTA didn't really like Barbie. I know they didn't like American Fiction, and American Fiction still won its category because of the strength of the screenplay. Barbie didn't here, but if we use the favorite example again, Black Panther didn't win here. They gave it to the movie that they spoke more to them.
It wasn't nominated.
That is true. Black Panther wasn't nominated.
Like something else.
But yeah.
Godzilla.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so for the Oscars, I think I will be switching to Poor Things. It's obviously something like visual effects. We'll go deeper into during our actual video that's coming out here shortly. But yeah, I think costume is still a race. I think it's like 55-45 sort of thing, or production design's now like 80-20.
I completely agree with you. The ADG going for Poor Things over Barbie shows that Americans are going to go for it there. I'm still questioning costume design. I think Barbie's just so flashy that it feels like it's still going to win there. I am going to split, but I'm glad that I went double Poor Things here because I just had a hunch that BAFTA wouldn't go for Barbie. I do still think the Academy would go for Barbie. They clearly like it a lot.
Yeah, I even said in the video, like, it's smart to go double to be safe like I did for director. But I was like, no, it's going to win. It didn't win. But one thing I did say in the video that I've been saying for a long time, and it happened here at BAFTA, Poor Things in makeup and hairstyling. Almost immediately following the ceremony, it did lose the Guild to Maestro, so take that as you will. But it won at BAFTA.
It is a race, I'll say that for sure, but I do still think it's Maestro. I don't think anything's been changed for the Oscar. It shows a lot of passion for Poor Things, evidently.
What's going to come down to for the Oscar is Poor Things really going to win 4 awards. That seems like too much for a movie that's probably not number 2 in Best Picture. But at the same time, these 4 categories seem likely. In addition to production design, costume design, makeup, and hairstyling, there's also Best Actress for Emma Stone.
Look, this is my favorite performance maybe ever. I love Emma Stone in this. There's been a lot of discourse on Twitter being like, do we need to give Emma Stone another award? Yes, we do. Yes, we do, because this performance is incredible. It's brilliant. It's breathtaking. It's everything you could want, everything you could wish for, everything you could dream of.
I saw someone gave a great example on Twitter. Jodie Foster won her second when she was 29. Do you really think she shouldn't have won for Silence of the Lambs, which, as most people would say, her best performance in her career? No, she should win. If she's good, she should win. And like Emma Stone, this is probably going to be her best performance in her career.
Yeah.
So like, people talk all the time like, oh, I wish people won the time they should have won. That way we don't have to do makeup awards. Well, Emma Stone
This is how you
win.
do it. Just give it to the person who's the best in the category. Stop thinking about, oh, that person already has one. Get that out of here. It doesn't matter if they already have one. If they're the best in the category, they're the best in the category. Now, there is an argument. A lot of people say Lily Gladstone's the best. I don't see it on a personal level. It's fine if you do. If they see Lily Gladstone's the best in the category, they should vote Lily Gladstone. But I don't want to hear anyone saying, oh, Emma already has one. She doesn't need another.
I think a lot of what's going on right now is people trying to make something out of like nothing. Like people want Lily Gladstone to win because of how historic it will be, how it will look good. But at the same time, I think if you're awarding someone only because it will make history, like obviously people think Lily Gladstone's good. I think she's good. But when your review or when your tweet or when whatever case you're making starts off with, she should win because it will be history making and no one's done it before, and you don't even mention her performance, I think that's a very wrong way to go about it. I think I fully understand if that's part of your reason for voting for someone, but if you're only rooting for someone because it checks off a box for whatever you want to go about it. And I mean, for how many people were controversial for American Fiction, that's kind of what American Fiction's all about.
This is something a lot of people are talking about right now, which is that it's demeaning to Lily Gladstone to say you should give it to her because it checks a box. We should be rooting for her for the performance and not for the history-making moment. I've also seen some people say we should give it to Lily Gladstone because Emma is a pretty white young actor. She's going to get another chance. Lily Gladstone might not. That feels really demeaning. It feels really demeaning to say that Lily Gladstone might not get another chance. What's stopping her from getting another chance? The stupid thing for me to say, institutionalized racism is stopping her from getting another chance, but I do see the needle moving. I think
she's booked
Lily Gladstone
more roles.
Will get another chance. Give it to the best performance. And again, if you think that's Lily Gladstone, root for Lily Gladstone. If you think that's Emma Stone, root for Emma Stone. This is a 60-40 race right now. I'm saying 60% Emma Stone, 40% Lily Gladstone, and that's because it's right now up to SAG to give life to Lily Gladstone. If SAG goes Lily Gladstone, I go to 55 Emma Stone, 45 Lily Gladstone, and I will be really on the edge of my seat all the way until the envelope is read. But if Emma Stone wins SAG, it's over, she wins.
I think it kind of goes back to last year with Yeoh versus Blanchett, because the same, I guess, stuff that we're talking about here was used last year as well for Blanchett and stuff. Last year, is people who were promoting Yo, I was one of them as well as some other people, were not leading off by saying it's historic if she wins. They're saying she's great in the movie.
Yeah.
She's elevating the movie and this. If you look on Twitter in the last 24 hours, no one's talking about how great she is. They're saying, or no one's a generality, people are, but the big tweets are not mentioning that. They're not showing clips of her performance. They're just saying, hey, why does Emma need to win? She's already won one. They're not saying, here's reasons why Gladstone's great. One reason why everyone thinks differently is supporting actors, because that's not happening this year. Everyone's thinking Divine Joy Randolph.
It's a sweep.
Sorry for the commenter. I would like to formally apologize to you.
To Frida.
I was not.
Sorry, Frida.
I was not implying that for Randolph. I was just saying, if she loses, this is how it happens, and I will have her for Oscar. She won the one place I thought she could lose.
Yep.
So she's checking off all 4 boxes this year.
Dude, it's a full-on sweep, and you know what? I'm happy for her. It's the one performance I love here. And that's the vibe I'm getting this whole season. People love Divine Joy Randolph, and I'm with them.
I liked Jodie Foster and Naiad more, but I think Randolph's a better winner.
We've gone over with Randolph. I think you've said in the past that you would think it's like the best performance of the year if she had like 15 minutes more of material.
Yeah, I honestly think there's a case for her to be a third co-lead, or I would want her to be a third co-lead. I really like her performance. I just don't like the way they handle her character. It's kind of my issue, where I think Jodie Foster is like the perfect example of what a supporting actress is. Fully supporting whatever Naiad is, but she's doing a great job at that.
Best casting, which the Holdovers also won. The reason why we called it is that every single year, casting award goes to someone who wins an acting award. Actually, beforehand, you said every year but 2020, because 2019 they went for Joker, which won for Joaquin Phoenix. 2020 they went for Rocks, and you were like, there's no acting win. It did win an acting award because it won
a what?
Rising Star.
Yeah.
Bucky Bacrae, she won Rising Star. And so you have a Best Actor win 2019. Then you have a Rising Star win 2020. You have a Will Smith Best Actor win 2021. And then last year it was who won?
Austin Butler,
who won for Elvis. Now this year, again, an acting win. So this is how we're going to predict the casting category going forward.
I was right. I just didn't actually follow my stats. Because I put all those stats out there in our video a month ago, but I didn't follow it.
You did kind of follow it because you were saying that you had a hunch, even though you weren't predicting Sandra Hüller, you were predicting that maybe it would
I
go
had
double.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, you had Killers of the Flower Moon. Oh.
Yeah.
Why did I think it was Anatomy?
I originally had Anatomy, and then when we talked it through, I switched to Killers, because Killers, I think objectively is the best casting.
It is the best casting, for sure.
But, and I was kind of going for the Rock angle, like, oh, you're perfectly casting all of these roles. But obviously, that's not how they went. And going to next year, don't have any bold predictions yet. Yeah. But in 2025, I'm going with Michael.
You go with whoever's the acting win. And I will say, don't go with Michael unless Jafar Jackson is winning. If he's winning, go with it.
I think he is currently. But that's super far away. That's super far away.
That's so far away. That is not even in the realm of what we should be talking about.
Michael could win casting. He may not win lead actor, but he could win Rising Star.
That's true. He could win Rising Star. He won't because
he's not British.
Holy shit. McKenna Bruce? What?
Well, I mean, he brought it up in the video. The crumbs were there. They like their Brits, unless their non-Brits are just clear as day obvious, like Kristen Stewart, and there was one other one.
But they should have been clear as day obvious because Jacob Elordi was in the category. Like, this to me just shows I will never pick a non-British person in this category ever again. How to Have Sex is such a small, independent film, and yet McKenna Bruce still won, which is wild.
You know what it is? You know what opened up in theaters last week in the UK? How to Have Sex.
But it's not a populist film. It's not the type of movie that people are going to go out and be like, oh, I want to go see How to Have Sex. People who go to see it, like, I screened this at my film festival, and I love this movie. It was the lowest rated film by audiences that I screened. And I assume it's the same in Britain.
I really want to know how they pull this. Like, is it a Instagram, click option? Is it a website? Because, no popularity contest would not go, let alone Jacob, to IO. Yeah. Those two by far, even if they split the vote, their one half of splitting the vote should be more than everyone else combined.
100%.
But, I mean, this is 2 years in a row where they don't go for whoever the most popular person is, even though it's a populist
Well, it's
vote.
because the
So
most
I'd love to
popular
know-
person's usually an American actor. Okay, now, final 2 categories here. Best animated film. The Boy and the Heron. I'm going to admit, finally, because I've been saying, oh, it's not a race. It's not a race. And then when Spider-Verse swept the Annie Awards with 7 wins, I was like, oh, see, it's not a race. The Boy and the Heron has no chance. No, it's a race. It's definitely a race.
Well, I'll still be contrary to you because what is BAFTA?
Oh, it's
and
an
what is Golden
international
Globe?
body. It's an
They
international
both
body.
are. What is the Oscars?
It's American. So it's still going Spider-Verse.
And what is
for sure.
PGA? What is Annie? What's
Absolute-
the other one that Spider-Verse won? They're all
ADG,
American.
it's going to win the ACE. It's going to win every
Yeah.
guild that has an animation award. So yeah, I still feel very confident Spider-Verse winning. But instead of being like 90% Spider-Verse, 10% Boy and the Heron, I'd say I'm 65-70% Spider-Verse with like
Okay.
Boy and the Heron is creeping up.
Well, one thing that we know for sure is winning at the Oscar, and I like to admit that you've known since January of last year, is 20 Days in Mariupol, and it continues its steamroll here at BAFTA, winning another big prize.
Yes, sir. 20 Days in Mariupol. It's the big winner. It's been that way for a very long time. Yeah,
A year?
it's for a year. It's just been the winner. People talk about the documentary category like it's so difficult to predict. I disagree. I think 9 out of 10 years, barring something like My Octopus Teacher, 9 out of 10 years, you can predict the documentary category as soon as the Sundance Awards are done.
I think that's the case for wins. I think nominations, that's another question.
Absolutely, you're right. Nominations are very difficult.
Well, for everyone out there, if you want to get wins, consider subscribing here. We got wins every day. We got W's for you all. If you made it this far, consider a like, subscription. We got cool stuff. Shameless plugs over. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Dyl.
And my name's Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.